Welcome to the Spagirlspodcast, the self-publishing podcast for authors. You're in the right place for the best writing, marketing, and publishing advice, plus interviews with industry experts and best-selling authors. I'm Cheryl Phipps.
I'm Shah Barrett.
I'm Wendy Bella.
And I'm Trudy J. And this week we have the lovely Holly Roberds with us. Hello.
Yay.
Hey,
Welcome,
Holly.
Hi.
Yeah,
Can you-
said it right and everything.
Can you all hear the wood chipper that's just started up next door? 'Cause I'll mute if you do.
No.
Just give me the
It's all
nod.
good. It's all
Next
good.
door.
Good.
I just stood on my cat's tail, so she just freaked out as well. So this is
Ah,
going
it's
well.
gonna be a
so
great
Oh, it's going well so
interview.
far.
Start. Great
This is
start.
going to be an awesome interview. So we're going to talk to Holly today about building a fandom and how you can use that to build your career at the same time. So, and sell more books, basically. I'm going to read out Holly's bio, and then we're going to get right into the interview. So, Holly Roberds started her writing journey with Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Terminator fan fiction. I want to talk about the Terminator fan fiction when we get to that. Before creating her own fantastical worlds, brimming with fierce, if not slightly unhinged, heroines and spicy encounters. As an Amazon Top 100 bestseller and BookTok favorite, her paranormal romances have captivated a global audience. Proudly a Colorado girl, Holly jokes about her outdoorsy nature, which is limited to enjoying drinks on patios in Denver. Holly subsists on the tears of her readers and feeds on their lack of sleep like a vampire, savoring every late night page turner that she inspires. How good is that?
Very good.
All very true.
So Terminator fan fiction. I just want to let's go back. I was going to roll back around to that question. So is it romantic or is it like
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely. Terminator is 1,000,000% a romance.
Yeah,
Kyle went back in time for a date, man. It doesn't
yeah.
get any more like romantic. And he met, a tragic end, and I had to fix it. I loved it so much. And then was it Terminator Genesis came out? Basically, they let somebody write fan fiction about it, and he gets to live. And I was like, oh, did anybody notice there's this fan fiction running around? No, okay, we'll just go with it. It's
Awesome.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad they fixed it. I don't know if I've seen that one. Anyway, moving on.
That's probably a reason.
Yeah. So Holly, tell us about how you got into writing and self-publishing. When did you start and what made you want to get into writing?
Yeah, it's always difficult to figure out where to pick up the origin story because there's so many. I look back and there's so many things that led me to where I am. So, I could start with by saying that I always enjoyed books. I've been into media and entertainment in some form, whether it was doing theater or film or music. And I ended up writing just writing in college for fun, and then I realized I had half a novel, and then I just went, oh, I'm an author. I'm just going to start telling people that I'm a writer. I'm writing a book. Yes, I am. So I did that, and I pursued, I think I had 5 or 6 jobs at one time for many years, and over time I just kept pursuing interests, and things fell away until I was just writing. And actually, at that time, because I really enjoyed Terminator and viewed that as a romance, and I was watching Aliens and Firefly and Buffy, I was actually in the sci-fi fantasy of things. And I wouldn't let myself write romance for a long time. And then I eventually moved in that direction and allowed myself to write what I really wanted to. So I've been self-publishing since 2019, and I've had a really that's, oh goodness, math. I'm a writer. 5 years. So 5 years. And it's done a pretty, I've been on an uptick pretty hard the entire time. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
It should be, yes. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Run,
Yeah.
So one of the things that I heard you do a talk at Romance Author Mastermind, and I loved it so much that I asked you to come on the show and expand on what you talked about. So you gave us a talk about building fandom and how that was I feel like I'm not putting words in your mouth, but that was a big part of your success. Would you say that?
Yeah, for sure. That was this is going to be nicer because that was difficult trying to summarize in 20 minutes and my mind was melting down to get all the information out as fast as I possibly could. Which you saw, just brain dribbling out of my ears. But yeah, I really enjoy fandom personally. I was doing fan fiction for Terminator and Buffy and really doing all the fan things. So when I flip to the creator side, I still have all those pieces of me that we'll go into about how I've really harnessed that as a way to give that experience and cultivate those kinds of fans, which has been really awesome. And it definitely is part of my my strategy of book selling and being, just dominating this industry is partly creating these super fans. And I remember pretty early on, I was trying to think this earlier today. I wrote a series and it didn't do very well, but even in that series that still doesn't sell, and into my first series, Vegas Immortals, I was getting comments of, "Oh, you're the author with those crazy fans," and by which they meant crazy, like enthusiastic fans, like they're very excited, not like they're stalking me. But one day, guys, can't wait. Like, it's good to have goals. But that was really cool to hear that back because I was just doing the things that I knew worked for fandom and connecting the way that I wanted to. And then it's kind of fun to have somebody else come out and mirror the thing. I'm like, oh, you see it too? That's cool. I thought I was just making it up. But I've had a lot of success with that. And specifically to drive sales and continue success. So yeah.
That's awesome. And so one of the things I want to clarify, would you say that it's possible to create a fandom, to do it on purpose? It's not just something that happens organically and you just accidentally do it.
Oh, heck yeah. I'm absolutely an evil villain and I'm basically creating, honestly, a cult. I love fandom, like I said. So a lot of the elements of what I used to do for fun are things that I'm now orchestrating and kind of convincing people to do for me. And what's funny is like they do it. There's not a whole lot of information about creating fandom. I know like little bits and what we talked a little bit before we got on here about some people have some theories about how to create fandom. And I haven't seen a whole lot, but what I have seen is a lot of stuff on how to create cults. And so sometimes my friends who aren't in the writing industry at all, they're just unhinged and very funny. Will watch. I think there is a show on Netflix that's like how to create a cult, and we're looking up articles, and they're like, yeah, the one thing you need to create a cult like above anything else is like be a sociopath. And I'm like, dang it, like thought we'll just settle for fandom. But some of the things are similar. And I think that as like kind of a more bigger philosophical worldview, I think that we really crave identity and we crave a place to belong. We crave specialness. And that's something that fandom does. And so I find a lot of different ways to achieve that and give them that special standing, that special place. And I think everyone kind of relates to it, whether you had it as a kid or saw it in show as a kid. But like having a group of kids with like a clubhouse, or they had special jackets, or they had a special name, or they did a special game on the playground. It's honestly the same rules, except we're adults. And I'm not telling anybody. I was going to say, I'm not saying it's not everyone's invited. Not everyone should come in, but everyone's invited. So the gatekeeping's low. It's just you got to be able to handle what.
Got to be the right place. So where do we start? Like, if you're someone who's like, I don't, what fandom? What's that? Like, where do they, someone who's never been writing fan fiction or not involved in that world, what's the...
it's across genres, right? You want to build this fandom across genres, really, don't you? It's not genre specific.
No, I do fandom on multiple levels too. So, I mean, fandom is basically you just want somebody who has that sense of belonging, that sense of identity, where they also get crazy enthusiastic and can immerse themselves in your world. And for me, I'm doing it on multiple levels where I'm writing books in a way that does invite fandom into the actual series with the characters in places in the book. I'm also doing it as an author in my author's place, in my author spaces, like a newsletter, an ARC team, a fan group on TikTok. Those are different places. And I kind of, the tactics are a little bit different from place to place, but there's overall themes that you can transfer from place to place. So basically, I do. Oh gosh, I wish I could remember who said this. I'm totally ripping off somebody who I think was ripping off somebody else. But she was saying that, one principle for writing fandom in your books, specific to like how you want to belong somewhere, is if your book was turned into a theme park, like that was something like there would be rides and like so for Hogwarts, right? Like for Harry Potter, like there's a Hogwarts ride. There's a probably an as I haven't been to Harry Potter World, but like I'm assuming like there's all these places you could go that are in the Diagon Alley, right? That's a place.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of fandom is about creating familiarity and grounding the reader very, very quickly. In some ways, I've done that would be literally having a spot in my book where the characters hang out that is inviting, that they will want to be. So, for example, I have spicy fairy tale retellings, and Rapunzel, aka Rap, who mysteriously has a mohawk and a past you don't know about, she runs the Poison Apple, and all my female characters work at the bar as bartenders. It's kind of like Coyote Ugly meets fairy tales. But that's the launch pad where characters continue repeatedly come back and meet other characters and have things happen. And because we continue to go back to this place, the reader's like, I think there's almost like a sigh of relief of, oh, okay, I know what to expect. I know what we're here. And there's a certain comfort in that. And especially with romance readers, we have repeatable expectations of, we want the HEA, we want certain elements of the first kiss, of the first time together, of enemies to lovers, like all these things that we really like, these grooves that we hit over and over again. And so I'm also trying to do that with the actual location. So I took this a step further too in my reader groups. And so I'm going to use this as an example. And I know it's a little bit difficult because we're in such a video dominated industry now with Reels and TikTok for advertising. But when I started, I was really pushing a Facebook fan group at the time. So it was posting, right? And so these principles, as I talk about them, you kind of take some of the essence to move them into video as well, but I think they are important. I did the same thing in my Facebook fan group where I gave my fans a place to hang out. And one of those was, because I write paranormal romance, I just found on Pinterest, oh my gosh, I love Pinterest so much. Just like food for the eyes all the time. And there's, like these cool 4-poster beds with like a skull on the backboard and like these rich gothic, sheets, or like a blood red pool. And it was like, so these are like, some of them are real pictures and some of them are not, of just weird, spooky aesthetic for, and that's my demographic. But I just thought it was cool. And so I started to say, hey, like, if you're in this group and today's hard, we're going to the Hellfire Mansion, we're going to go hang out, and here's a picture of our blood red pool. That's what I was doing. And then they started to find similar stuff, and they'd be like, here's a really cool gothic kitchen, let's all have a party in there one night. And I'm like, okay, someone's playing with me. So it's kind of like a gamifying thing, but I made them have a space that they recognize. So I think anyone who sees that kind of decor now, they instantly associate it with me, which is very cool. I will say, I mean, hopefully I'm not getting too away from the fandom thing, but I think in terms of identity is part of it as well. And one of the ways I create identity is I give names to everything. So in that Facebook group, I named my fans Hellions. It's Holly's Hellions. And so the Hellions we go hang out at the Hellfire Mansion. And if you can't figure out the theme, it's kind of there. I got assistants even, and I gave them names. I have the Hellfire Manager and I have Madam Hellraiser. And when I post, and this is something you see too on TikTok or Reels, where somebody goes, "Oh, hey, book bestie," and that instantly orients the person where they're at, who they're talking to. On every post, and I still do this in the Facebook group, everything has Hellion in it very quickly in the post. And usually, probably by the content, they can tell it's me anyways, but I'm hitting that over and over and over and over again. So if you're in there, you're Hellion and you're with me and I'm giving you an identity and this is the space you're in. So it's kind of like, again, creating the space, this identity. And I did it for my ARC team. My ARC team isn't just, they're not just readers. I named them ARC Vengers, like Avengers. So I do funny little Avengers jokes in there all the time. And this also associates back to my books too. I have my fairy tale retellings, and the series is called The Lost Girls. And so now I think that a lot of my readers want to be a lost girl, which they're either seeing themselves as one of the characters that's already in there, or they could probably even imagine themselves as walking on and becoming a new lost girl. And so kind of having that, when you're a kid, the club name, right? The Pink Lady's jacket, right? From the Grease. Like that's the club. The Spa Girls. The Spa Girls is absolutely a club. Everybody wants, do you guys have jackets? You should have jackets.
Yeah, we don't
We
wear
have pins. We have pins.
Pens. Girls, you need jackets. I just did that actually for my Patreon too, which is turning out really well. I started that in the last year, and I made a specialty jacket that says Lost Girl for Life on the back. I'm like, that's some kind of like cult nonsense, but it's totally working.
And you sell that in your shop.
I did it. I don't have I need to make a shop only for Patreons. I'm still trying to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
But like, if you were in there, like they got the sweater. But you can see how this identity can go back and forth between inside the books to outside the books. So, a lot of that stuff I was creating, I didn't even have a really, I don't even think I'd published a series when I started my my fan group and my newsletter. And I was just creating identities I could use no matter what. And it still served me. So when you're on TikTok or Instagram, again, you could say, "Hey, book bestie," but what if you came up with something that was similar or a little bit different, that they're going to instantly recognize that space and feel you're calling them that and giving them that identity that's something fun and cool.
So you haven't actually created things inside your book. It's not so the Hellions and the Hellfire Mansion, that's not in any book anywhere. It's just something that you've created out of. Well, that's intriguing. Usually an author will use stuff from their books to create that identity. So it's, I like that. I like that you've been able to create this identity kind of outside and away from the books that's still connecting people to you as the author. Is that what you would say?
Yeah. So also, to be clear too, because sometimes I get people going, "Well, I don't do this," but part of my brand too is that my face and my personality is my brand as well. So I do get people going, "Well, I don't want to use my face." I don't care. You don't need to use your face. It doesn't matter, because the only thing you really need is something repeatable, identifiable, and simple. So, you could have you could use your ear for every single video you ever do. But if you maybe wear a special earring, but if you repeat that, that's going to create that recognition. I think a lot of people who watch Instagram or TikTok, they recognize sometimes these people's bookshelves before they recognize the face anymore, or the way it's shot, So, and when it comes to me, he goes, "Well, I can't do what you can do because you're personable and you like to get on TikTok and use your face all the time." You don't have to do that. If I didn't want to do this, I'd be breaking out Barbies so fast and be like, "This is my Barbie and this is my action figure and these are the ones that I'm going to use every time," or something fun,
Yeah.
So also, for the Facebook fan group too, I did I chose like three things to populate it with. So one of them was like those decorations for the Hellfire manager, or excuse me, for the Hellfire mansion. And then the other two things were ominous ominous positivity memes, which were like, I love ominous positivity. And we'll actually, we need to talk about the positivity thing later, about how I've created the healthiest fandom you've ever seen. I have the nicest readers ever, and there's a really good reason why. Yeah. Ominous positivity is, you better have a good day and love yourself or else. Like, I love that stuff. And so I think I found ones with like Skeletor from He-Man, and he would always like pop on and say something really ominously positive and then run off. And so I was putting that into the group as well. And then also like pictures of bunnies and Keanu Reeves. Those are my things. I love bunnies. And so they're very simple things. But like, again, doing 2 to 4 things that are really recognizable and repeating that, so now people are sending me pictures of Keanu Reeves and bunnies and the same ominous positivity. So it's mirrored back to me. And the truth is, a lot of my fandom is the way I run it is very sustainable because I'm having so much fun. I just basically pick things I love to do, which I'm a huge proponent of. I just realized I need to back out to about a little bit more from the business perspective. When I started, I wanted to reach something is what I've called critical mass with fans. This is my goal, which is creating fans and so much popularity that I'm eventually going to hit a spot where my fans are selling my books for me, and I don't have to do anything, because the more I work, the longer I work, the less I'd like to work. Like, I just want to write books and do less things. And I'm doing a pretty good job actually as I go on of having a simpler schedule and working even less. So, I'm just planning on making these fans, and they're going to ride the ship for me, which is, I've been viral several times on TikTok, but this is kind of a different, more lasting thing. And from what I've seen, it's not out of the question either, because I've heard Sierra Simone, I believe, and also Anna Huang, they're series that have done really well. I think I've heard it mentioned that both of them kind of had these series out for like 5-7 years. And then one day it just, boom, hit what I'm calling critical mass, and it just swept everywhere. I'm just doing it strategically, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but that's okay.
Yeah.
When you first started out, did you, like, I'm just sort of thinking, someone who's not done anything like this at all, and you get like 2 people in your Facebook group and you're going, oh, I don't want to be sitting here for 2 people, but you have to, how did you kind of start off and get going?
Oh, I loved sitting there I'm like, anybody who would come play with me is fine. So again, making it fun for me mattered more. If I'm just posting pictures on my Pinterest of me doing that stuff, I think it's fun. So that was fine for me. For videos, like, I think sustainability really comes from your enjoyment. Part of that is managing expectations. Like, if you're like, I'm going to get on there's going to be 1 million people, like, maybe you should work on having fun more than focusing on that part, right? And also, I think service can be a helpful gauge of how to interact with fans. So one of the things I did in that group is I was going live when I had like 10 whole fans who had, maybe one of them had read a book by me, is I would be like, how could I serve my readers and make this special? And so in my Facebook group, once a week, I would go live and do a Tarot Tuesday, something else I named so that you would remember it. And I would be like, okay, guys, I have tarot cards. If you come on, I'll pull a tarot card for you. And it was kind of my gift to readers, is like, and I would be like, does anybody want a tarot card? And I'd sometimes be in there by myself, just nervously shuffling, and nobody would want a card. Or like someone would come on, I'm like, oh, does your husband or your friend or your dog want a card too? And they go, sure. And so I would show up and do that repeatedly. But having that aspect, like, what's a gift I could give that gives back and makes them feel special, actually served me really, really well. So within 2 years, I had to stop. Was it 2 or 3? Like, because I would be on there for an hour, not be even close to getting everybody's cards because it had gotten so much bigger. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's too many cards. So I'm not saying that you should go to Instagram or TikTok and do that, because that's actually a business model of tarot card readers to get people to buy their services. But gamifying this in a way that could be fun can really, really help. So something you could, I've done this once or twice. I just did a live and, had a sign like, hey, pick a page number from this book and I'll read the first paragraph. And Lord help me, sometimes that wasn't always a good deal. Sometimes they chose a page and it was like, I don't like bleep. I don't know if I can say these words. It's a little bit of a sexy time.
Bit of a sweat there going on.
Yeah, but it was like something fun, right? I do think that people get a hit of dope. So kind of to the point about identity too, is I want to give people a hit of dopamine. And how I was doing that in that reader group initially, and that I still kind of use, is asking questions that are very, very, very simple. If you ask somebody coffee or tea, they probably have an answer. And I think that we kind of get a little hit of dopamine of knowing yourself and going, yes, that was a question. I answered it. I know me. It feels good. And you have to ask like really simple ones. I learned that I kind of divined this because somebody was talking about how if you had to send a newsletter re-engagement, that you would, the question that always got everybody was, who's the best Chris? Was it Chris Evans, Chris Pine, or Chris Hemsworth? Or Chris Pratt, I think too.
Pratt, yeah.
And she goes, without fail, it is always Chris Hemsworth who wins. And so
Chris
I kind of
Pine.
took that idea.
Chris Evans.
Yes, Chris Pine.
I love Chris
Evans.
Pine in Star Trek, the Star Trek movies. I'm like,
No, Chris Evans as
Evans,
Captain
yeah.
America, man.
no,
Yeah.
boo.
Boo.
Goodness. Yeah, see, but it's also like kind of polarizing in a not negative way either. It's just it makes you think of the one you love. And that was such an easy question and such an easy engagement question. I took that and ran. So, pumpkin pie or pecan pie. I was asking, so in my group too, I'd be asking those questions. And then you can get it into questions of e-reader or paperback, audiobook or special edition. And you start to ask questions. And, sometimes people go both or all, but a lot of the time people come on with really strong opinions. They get that hit of dopamine. I know who I am. And I answered the question. It almost feels like a little checklist. So I have started to do some TikTok videos where it's like, hey, would you rather be saved by a 6'7" demon shifter or be claimed by a werewolf, on the full moon in chains? And people have like immediately go, either that's the one I want, or they'll say both. But what happened in those videos is I'm just describing stuff from my own books, and I tried to make them fairly simple. Usually that 6'7" thing wins every time. I don't know what it is about the magic number 6'7" in readers. It just does something to them. But then in the comments, they would say what they wanted, and I can go, hey, you should read Tasting Red for the werewolf thing, or you should read One Savage Night for the demon shifter. And so even if they don't read the book, though, they still get like I get the choice, and it's a fun choice, and I get to know myself a little bit better. So utilizing that also has created a lot of engagement with these readers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we should talk about the engagement with the readers too. I love getting reader input and feedback and having them vote on things. If there's a name, let's have you guys vote on a name. If there's a detail, you can vote on the detail. And some stuff I've done a lot of stuff, a lot of reader engagement I would be like, do you want your name in the book? Oh gosh, there's so many examples. My brain just imploded. Okay, so for example, I was thinking about this fandom thing for my series Vegas Immortals, and I had the Grim Reaper actually owns a hotel in Vegas. Nobody knows he's really the Grim Reapers, but his name is Grim. And he's so powerful and so rich. He's a celebrity of his own right. So he has Instagram groupies who call themselves Grimm's Groupies. And so in the book, I have the groupies come and stop him for selfies. because, he's kind of like billionaire romance style. And I said, who wants to meet Grimm in my books? And like people went, oh, like at that time, I think only like 5 people responded, or no, was it 2? I think only 2 people responded. And I'm like, all right, you're in it. And I wrote them into the scene as meeting him. I even said, do you want to send me a picture? Give me some descriptors of you. And they said, yeah. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So like one of the t-shirts in my shop is Grimm's Groupies. It didn't take on the way I thought it would, but I thought it was clever. I had my characters go to dinner for a date, and there was going to be a couple they interacted with. And I said, who wants to be in the book, and who do like you and your husband's name? And what was really cool is everyone went, oh, me and my husband, these are our names, these are our names. And then somebody went, I would really love this. My husband passed away, and I haven't, been on a date since he died like 6 years ago. And then all the readers went, screw us, pick her.
Yeah.
And that was such lovely written. And so I wrote her and her husband, who had passed on, into the books.
I got chills. Oh,
That's so lovely. Yeah.
So easy for me to do too, right? Like how many throwaway characters, how many little details in your story that you can enrich with these things. I have Reaper dogs in the Vegas Immortal series. They're these black dogs that run around and fetch souls for the Grim Reaper. And I saw a meme game online. It was like your demon name is your name backwards. And so I had the idea, and I put it in my fan group, and I said, who wants to be in my book and be a Reaper dog? So whatever your name is backwards, that's your Reaper dog name. And the more that series got popular, the more people wanted to be in the book. And so it's hilarious too, because they came out great. They're great, weird names. And there's Anna.
So it's going to be Anna.
And I did it. Yeah. And Anna, Yasalem, and Asalem is Melissa backwards, and I have had a bunch of other really good ones, and then Anna. And I was like, yeah, all right, we'll put it in there. So it's funny because
come on,
yeah,
Anna.
But like you can now go and look and see if your name's in my book if you pay attention to it backwards. And some people, I didn't really point it out. I don't point it out anymore, and people will message me because they realize what I've done and go, you put people's names in backwards. I go, yeah, those are fans.
That's awesome.
Another fun one is because I love Pinterest. I love dressing and have iconic, you see characters. And so for example, Fourth Wing is wildly popular. And if you look at fan art, if it's her, because she's got the dark to silver hair. Mm-hmm. So having that identifying feature also creates, it makes that iconic character. So I love fashion and tattoos and piercings and all these, or these jargon as well, right, are ways that we make those characters. So on Pinterest, I'd be like, you know what, she's going to get a cool coat. What coat is she going to wear? And I pull 3 or 4 pictures that I loved, and I liked all of them. I could write any of them, and I put them on Canva and put them on a thing and have them go vote on what jacket she's going to wear. I've done that a million times. I just did it again recently I'm writing the Beauty and the Beast retelling, and she has a coat, and it's the coat that when she's going to go out and get attacked by wolves, quote unquote, like the Beauty and the Beast version. And they chose a coat I didn't think they'd choose, but I'm going to write that coat in. And somebody actually added a really cool detail. They're like, oh, it'd be cool if this was embroidered on it. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to write that. It was really cool when my Vegas Immortal series came to an end, and I said, you get to vote on the wedding dress. So I had the wedding dresses for and they got to vote on that. So there's just so many fun ways to play and bring your readers in.
Totally investing them in it, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also they have those identifiable features, right? So my character has a big fluffy blue coat they voted on, and so everyone sees it now. Like that aspect is something that reminds them of my character. So like if you saw fan art and you knew the books, you'd know that's her.
Yeah, it's also kind of something to talk about in other spheres. Like if you're at a dinner party and you go, oh, my favorite author, she lets us vote on the thing, and we said this, and I'm backwards named in this book, and you should go read it.
My name's Anna, and I'm backwards in the book.
Yeah, my backwards name. Yeah,
Right?
just it's taking it out. It gives them an opportunity to take it outside of that world as well, like to draw others in. I don't know.
I think a lot of why I needed to publish or why anyone publishes is because we want to share. I want somebody to come play in my world and experience it. Otherwise, I wouldn't need to publish. I'd just write it and experience it myself. And having other people play in these worlds, like, oh my God, I can't wait for somebody to get a tattoo of my books. That's going to happen. Just give it time. Name a baby after one of my characters. That's totally going to happen. Can't wait. They're already dressing up like the characters.
Nice.
Which is really fun. They definitely did it for Halloween. And because I write plus size characters too, I'm really big on like Pinterest trying to find what is Goldilocks' style. Well, she wears pink and she wears leather, and we're going to find cool outfits that go for her. So in my own fandom, I by myself am doing these Pinterest boards about the book. I have a Spotify playlist for the book as I'm writing it. And when I started, I was like, does anyone want to see these? And just dead silence. I'm like, nah, it's so cool. It's fine. It's for me anyways. And then now I almost forget that people like, just they're asking on there, like in these groups or asking online, like, does anyone know what some good music would be to go with this? And then I pop up and go, here's a playlist I made for it. And they're like, holy crap, why are you here? You're too big to be here. And also, that's awesome. I'm like, oh, people care now. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
How many people in your group
So in
now?
terms,
Sorry.
3,000.
Okay.
So
Nice.
I grew the group to 3,000, but it is a strong 3,000. They are super invested. For example, in terms of like noticing the difference, I used to do these one-on-one things and I got too big for a lot, like things got too big for me to manage in some respects, like the Tarot Tuesday. And for instance, last week, I was like, I'm gonna, you know what, maybe Christmas card. I've never sent a Christmas card, and I'll do a little form and I'll give it to the hellions, and then I'll throw the newsletter. And we had to shut that down in 24 hours because I got 212 requests for Christmas cards. That escalated so quickly. I was like, okay, I can't do it anymore. We have to stop it right there.
Oh no.
So like they're very excited to like interact and play.
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing the evidence of this business wise too, right? Like this makes it so much more fun for me, but I had my last release in August, and it was my Cinderella retelling called Igniting Cinder. And, I've watched pre-orders go up as time goes on, my TikTok grows, my Instagram, I'm just doing all the things, growing all the places that you do. And then when that release hit, I saw numbers I have never seen without a viral TikTok. And I realized it just happened. Like, I didn't do that. I didn't press a button. I didn't pull all the levers. It just happened. And I went, this is it. This is the evidence that I'm reaching that critical mass. And then it's just continuing on. And so I'm just going to grow it over time. And again, it's going to continue to serve me more and more and more while I'm having fun. A really cool, weird story too is one of the times I asked for feedback for people to vote on things. And I wanted a fairy tale bar for the spicy fairy tale retelling I was going to do. And I got a lot of suggestions, and one of them was called The Poison Apple. And I was like, oh, I love that idea. Yeah. And I said, I messaged her and I said, hey, I really like that idea. And she goes, oh, actually, it's funny you say that because that's a bar I made a business plan for in college to like open it in real life. Wow. So she had a business plan. She had a logo her husband like put on a cup for her. And I went, that's awesome. Would you let me know what it looks like? Would you want me to write this in here? And she said, yes. So she shared her Pinterest board with me. She shared the logo with me. Eventually I licensed it from her because I was like, I need to pay you money to use this. Like, and she can use it however she wants, but like she had cocktails already. She, for this bar that we made like a fake menu and put on the website. I don't know if anybody sees that. I think it's cool. She's now my PA. That escalated real quick. And like, I don't think she saw that coming, but I just went, I'm just going to take more from you until I have your soul. But like, that's such a cool thing now that, she's actually and I get her feedback too. And I go, what was that thing? You want to do another cocktail for this character? She's made, I kid you not, like 50 cocktails for characters and for this poison apple bar. And so she's creating it with me in the books. And it's just really, really fun and a cool way to connect.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I did want to round back to, I said that I have the healthiest readership, and I wanted to elaborate on that too really quickly. I have the nicest readers, the most supportive, amazing mega fans. And I know exactly why I have them. It is because I have a rule, and it is I only talk about what I love, period. I never, ever, ever, ever ask or talk about what I don't like. And I think that is massively important. And to be fair, for somebody else, they may need the space to talk about those things, but you're also going to attract a different mentality.
Mhm.
But, there was a time when I was doing those ominous positivity, like it seemed kind of, like you better have a nice day or else. The underlying, it really is a nice, genuine message. And for a while, I remember that, there was a person who came on who was a fan. I don't actually know if she read my books, but she was in the group, and she was dropping these memes that were basically, I think she thought she was hitting the spirit of it, but it was basically memes about like, I'm a bitch and that's good. And like, screw everybody else and screw the world. And it kind of has a little bit of a similar vein, and I see why she did it. But that also was not the vibe I wanted.
No.
And I never said a thing to her. I didn't encourage or interact with those at all. I just kept doing more and leaning into my vibe. And eventually she went away, and those posts disappeared. So I really focus on building what I like, because I think when I create a space of being like, let's just talk about what we love, attracts a very specific type of person.
Yeah.
And I hear horror stories about, authors who deal with readers who are so mean to them. Like about what I have been, everyone's so supportive and nice, and I've never had to deal with any of those things. And I do think that that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's awesome.
And I think
though.
it does, I have to say, being a moderator in a group that's got over 70,000 fans, I think with size, it just becomes really hard to kind of keep the flow in a certain direction. So it does probably need a little bit more hands-on. Like, for example, in that situation, I would have nixed those, but I think what's really come through so strongly is you've built almost the brand of your brand, or of the vibe you've built. And so you either fit in or you don't. Like, it's really obvious from first on, so that's so awesome.
It's really well done,
for sure.
So are there any non-negotiable rules you think that are, I mean, there's the positivity one we've talked about, engaging with the readers in certain ways. Are there other rules that you always follow, or things that you always try to do that you can think of that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, and it's gonna not be super popular, I think, because I think writers tend to be workaholics, but it needs to be sustainable for me, and if I don't like it, I don't do it.
I think that's great advice, honestly, Holly. I think we've seen so many, particularly over the recent years, of authors burning out trying to do it all and twist themselves into a pretzel shape to try and be who they think other people want. And I think it comes through real clear. So, yeah.
I mean, I think there's a whole other conversation that's really important, especially because there's so many places we can be. There's so many things to do that I do think that I do see a lot of writers who, when TikTok comes or Instagram Reels or whatever new innovation comes, that they go, I don't want to learn that. Or they'll say, I hate it. But they say they're not saying they hate that medium. It's that they don't want to deal with the learning hump, which is different. So I do think that we all I think it really serves to pivot and adapt and to work through the really difficult learning curve of something, to try it out. But you then decide, is that something you want to do or not? And I'm absolutely a phases person. Like, I did the Tarot Tuesday for years, and then I couldn't do it anymore, and it was draining my energy. And so my assistant, helps keep it alive. She does it as a post, and she puts up the cards every Monday in a post, and she flips them every Tuesday and puts them in a post. I used to Rickroll readers constantly. Oh my God. Are you guys familiar with the Rickroll?
I am, but can you do it? Can you
explain
can
it?
you? Yeah.
I'll explain it. Not everyone knows what it is, but a lot of people do. It's kind of like this massive game of Made You Look that started in I don't know, I think it was 2010 or something. But there's the Rick Astley song called "Never Gonna Give You Up." Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. And so there's this whole thing where people were like having QR codes, or they'd send you a link and you click on the link and they're like, oh yeah, here's a new recipe, or hey, like, I found this video of you, and it would go to the Rick Astley music video, and it was all like, ha, sucker. And I think it is delightfully hilarious. And my mom was very upset for a while because she thought I was besmirching Rick Astley, but he loves it. Of course he would.
Of course, yes. Free advertising.
How could you not? So like one of those games was in one of the books, the first word of the first 5 chapters is "never gonna give you up." So like my editor was like, this is a really weird first sentence for a book. And I go, shh, don't worry about it. None of your, just let it happen. And like just more weird games for me to play with them. But I haven't been rickrolling really as much because I'm just focused on other things. But like people will bring it up to me, but it's got to hit me organically, right? And that sounds weird, but like I don't do it's expected, and I don't do it as much because it just doesn't hit me as much. Same example is TikTok. I did really, really well on TikTok. I loved TikTok when it was COVID and entertaining myself. And when I started to see people figure out how to do it, I'm like, oh, I can do that. And I just did it in a way that was fun for me. And I did like 5 videos a day for like 3 times a week, just because that was what felt good to me. And I got some viral videos. My series became a book talk pick on Amazon. That's really awesome. And I've really come a long way with TikTok. It is very hard for me to get on TikTok right now. And, Trudy and Cheryl ran with me. And one of the consistent messages was, do TikTok. You need to do TikTok. And it's true. It's a fabulous resource. There's so much it's an organic and a great way to connect with people. But personally, there's something in my gut that I'm having a hard time showing up there. And partially that is because it's not COVID anymore. And I was also in a different state, much more isolated. So, and then I ended up moving back home to Colorado, and I'm not in that space as much anymore. And I'm having to I'm continuing to try to show up as an experiment with how to make it feel good without making myself wrong for not showing up the way I used to, because I just don't feel it. And I don't want to force that. I don't think that's going to be helpful either. So not doing every little thing, but finding the things that you have fun with make a big difference. I love Pinterest boards. I love getting, learning about new things and telling readers on TikTok or, in a post or in a newsletter, like, I just learned what nodding is and I kind of get it and I kind of don't. And this paranormal thing with werewolves is freaking me out. And can someone please explain it to me? And then suddenly I'm getting all this interaction and people going, oh, you're going to freak out when you figure out like about the barbed penises. And I'm like, the what? Weird paranormal romance things. And I'm like, okay. But, I'm just having conversations that get me excited. And the more I notice what excites me, the more I engage with readers and want to share. So that, and the conversation was, or the question was a long time ago, but it was what's non-negotiable. And I think that's really non-negotiable, not only for building fandom, for just for doing anything, being in this industry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
that's very true.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
advice.
So
Um,
easy to get burnt out. So easy.
Trying to
And
do
just
stuff that
keeping
we
to
have to.
keep doing things that you don't want to do, but you think you have to do and you should do. You know, it's quite hard.
Yeah.
I don't think I could
Yeah.
ever do one thing and continue to do that thing forever. Like I can't even, if I was really smart, I would have my series be interconnected too, right? And have them all. And I know some authors who do that. That's awesome. I can't do that. I love reinventing the wheel every once in a while. Just like, we're going to do everything from scratch. You know, but I'm doing still pretty well because I keep having fun. I keep finding my joy and sharing that. And that makes a difference. But I do think there's something to fandom with making things recognizable, being repeated, and being simple. By the fact that I am doing fairy tale retellings gives me a leg up because readers know 20% of what to expect. I mean, for heaven's sake, they just got me on the Matlock show that came out. And it's not at all like the old Matlock. Okay, Kathy Bates is like, it's completely different, but they knew what they were doing because it associated with me. I'm like, oh, okay, I know Matlock. That's a safe space. Some
Same.
old lawyer. The end.
Yeah.
And they got me, bastards. It really worked. You know,
Same thing. I watched it too. It's like I love the original Matlock. Yes.
So how
but
did
it
you
has nothing to do with the old Matlock, but
Nothing.
it's just got enough of it that I'm like, okay, I know this is a guaranteed good time for me because there's these elements, you know, and there's, you know, we have issues in media where, you know, some things are too done over and over. We have a billion sequels, right? But there's a reason why, because there's a bigger range there, I think, to play with. But that familiarity, it helps a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So when you're saying that, you know, you haven't, your series aren't interconnected, how does that affect the fandom? Like, you can't start all over again with a new series, can you? Because these are your fans. So somehow you have to bring them in. Is it just because of who you are and your tone and the vibe of your books that keeps them coming for the rest of the books, other series?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to be fair, I do think, like I said, my personality and my face brings a lot of people in, and they go, "You're kind of fun. I hope your books are as fun as you." And I go, "It's exactly like hanging out with me," and it's probably makes it weird when it says sex parts, but yeah, that's exactly.
It always does.
But I think that my brand and my fandom overcomes that. So it doesn't always transfer. I have Egyptian gods running Vegas, and I have fairy tale retellings in an alternate world. And I'm actually going to start releasing really dark monster romance that I was trying out serial format, and I'm very scared about that because that's a whole other thing. But I just want to write what I want to write. But I think that as long as, I mean, I just got to trust them that they're going to read what they like and what they don't. And I don't really care. I want people to read what they want to read. If they like Vegas Immortals, they may not like my Lost Girls series or vice versa. They definitely might not like my dark romance series. Oh my God, don't go in there unless you really think you can handle it.
Yeah.
But as long as I can give them something, that's fine. So I do notice that sometimes there's pockets where they sometimes don't even know I have another series. And I'm like, I've written a lot of other books. Okay.
Can I ask, just from a purely production level, how many books you're publishing and at what point were you able to go full time, Holly?
Sure. I have about 20 books out in 5 years. I started off doing rapid release and shorter books. I have less books out a year because they're longer. I think I only did 2 books this last year, but I think it's somewhere between 2 to 4 a year is what I'm realizing is a good pace for me. And I am very, very lucky in that I am independently wealthy by my husband has a really good job. So I've been treating this like it's been full time for not even 5 years. I've been treating it like it's full time for 6 years with how I treat my time, and even longer than that. And me and my husband, that's a whole other conversation too about how we how we view this business is a long-term investment. Like, just you would go to a financial advisor and say, I'm going to do a bunch of high risk investments for the next 10 years so it pays off. And so he goes, you're my retirement plan. And I am absolutely the retirement plan. But I've spent a lot of time building a really solid business too, in ways that I think my peers don't always do too, where I put everything repeatedly back into the business money wise over and over and over and over and over again, to make sure I have, because I wanted to delegate more. So I got PAs, I'm getting accountants. I have a emergency fund that will fund my business for 6 months if anything goes wrong. So paying me out has taken a lot longer. But again, viewing it as a long game where this critical mass is going to hit, and, over time, and just keep going. I'm starting this year to see it really pay out in ways I've never seen before, on top of an incredibly solid business that runs itself now and pays itself out. And was the goal for a very long time.
It's a really cool approach.
Yeah.
And honestly, in the timeline of businesses, it's fast growth, since 2019. I mean, that's only 5 years.
Yeah.
What does your advertising look like?
Oh, I spent a lot on advertising too. That's another way that I build fandom. Actually, this is a good thing you brought that up. Is I spend a lot on advertising. Right now I'm spending, I think, 23,000 a month is about what I'm at. And I learned to do Facebook ads, and then I learned to scale. And so my goal was to scale over and over and over and over again. Every dollar I made, I put it back in, made another dollar, put it back in. And then I kept scaling upward, because my goal was, when I paid myself out, I was going to pay myself out big. So I wasn't going to pay myself out like $200. I've just started to pay us out this year. And I think I'm paying, trying to figure out how to pay yourself is kind of weird as an author too. Like, it's all made up, and when do you do it? And you gotta, there's ups and downs. But I think I've paid myself out $5,000 a month this year, and I may get to bonus myself out some more. And next year is definitely going to be more than that. But that's the first time I'm paying myself, and like, that's not a small amount of money. So advertising is also, I viewed it as building fans. So like, that money I spent on books, even if I was breaking even or making a couple dollars and I put it back in, that was more reviews. That was more readership. That was me finding my people. So I've been investing in my fans for a long time, and I'm betting that they're going to take me a lot further than that money. So even if I'm not making a ton of money and I'm spending a ton on advertising, I'm finding my people, and my people are finding me, and that matters.
Yeah. Brilliant. Really good.
Very cool. Awesome.
To your point too about it being fast growth in 5 years, I think what is difficult about what we do is I've done a lot of the business stuff for writing, and I think that we sometimes view ourselves as a different microcosm from small businesses, which we really are. It's just a small business, right?
Yeah.
And so I have to work really hard to remind myself that most small businesses fold within a year. Another drop-off point is 3 years. There's a much smaller, I think it's like a 10% margin of income that you can pay yourself. Like, I'm spending gads of money, and I kind of cried last year when my brother-in-law, who's a accountant, was like, this is how much you netted. And I was like, God, that's so little by comparison. And he goes, no, for any other business, that's a really healthy margin. And so I think sometimes too, we have, for scaling the ads, for example, I don't know, just to make the language clear, if I have a one return, I spend $10, I get $10, right? If I have a two return, it's, I spend 10, get 20. If I have a 1.2 return, I spend $10 to earn 12. I will do that all day long. to get readers, to get that extra $2, to get that, those reviews, whatever. And so many authors I know won't do it. They'll go, if I'm not earning twice what I'm spending, it's not worth it. And I know that some people had taught them that. I'm like, why wouldn't you take the money? Like, even if it was $1, take the money and also build your readership and get reviews, and people who find your books are going to buy books in the future. Like, I'm investing in them, so they invest in me. And so I know that there's sometimes authors have expectations that you have to have X amount of return, and it has to be way more than what you put in to make it legitimate. And I'm like, I've been building on scraps for a while, and I've got a pretty fat diet now.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's very cool.
Very cool.
Awesome.
What great idea. My head's spinning. All the knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm just like trying to keep it all in there. Keep it all in there.
So we're about at the end of our interview. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there just one last little nugget that you want to leave our listeners with? Just a piece of advice that you think they'll appreciate?
Yeah. I think sustainability is really, really, really important. I think it's not, the burnout amongst writers is really intense. It's really real. You never feel like you're doing enough. And I think I've really valued lifestyle and sustainability above making money, which they all contribute to each other, but those are first and foremost. And when you make it fun, when you share in a way that feels good to you, right? Not how I'm doing it. Like, if something I've said inspires you to do something, that's fantastic. But like, what's going to get you excited, and doing that is going to make it sustainable, and it's going to make you enjoy your world building, your readership engagement better. And there's so many ways to do that. And if it stops working, there'll be something else too, And I think that's really something that I hope people focus on a little bit more.
Brilliant.
That's very
advice.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Very
much.
good.
Thanks for joining us in the spa. If someone wants to go and ask a question or come find you or find your group, where is the best place to go?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to email me, I'm pretty open to helping out. I'm good. I will respond to you in probably under a month. I'm very bad about messaging. But contact@hollyroberds.com. I'm happy to answer questions. Hollyroberds.com is a website, and I have the Holly Hellions, the Facebook group. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, and all over the place. But yeah, I'm pretty open to help people out if they want it. So
Awesome. Thank you so much.
yeah.
And Shah, where can we be found?
We can be found at spagirlspodcast.com, and we can be found on Patreon at spagirlspodcast if you'd like to come and join our superstars. So we have got our name for our group. And so if you'd like to be a superstar author, come along. We haven't got pink jackets yet, but who knows?
We need to get some jackets. Let's
Watch
get some
the
jackets,
space.
yo. Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Holly. And thank you to everyone listening to this episode of the Spa Girls podcast. We'll be back again next week with another episode. But for now, farewell.
Keep well.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.